Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cisco CyberOps training labs. I think this is day 7, and we're going to proceed shortly. So let's just spend some moments to wait for some of our students. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cisco CyberOps training labs. I think this is day 7, and we're going to proceed shortly. So let's just spend some moments to wait for some of our students. The real lifestyle. You're list number 1 on the live call. Welcome. If you are here, you can announce your presence. You can share the live link to others. Let's spend some moments and wait for some of our students. Let's wait for more persons on the call. Okay, I'm Henry, the guy that spoke with you not quite long. Okay, welcome to the call. Okay, so we'll just begin right about now. Okay, so this is the Cisco CyberOps certification training labs. Okay, so we have about 47 labs in the Cisco CyberOps course. Like about 4 or 5 of the labs are a little bit of research. I think the first lab has to do with top hackers, shows how it is done. Then the second lab has to do with installing virtual machines. We've shared that guide to you guys. You could use your Oracle VirtualBox and install the Linux machine, which is the CyberOps machine, and also install the Security Onions machine. Then we looked at there's a lab 1.16 that has to do with cybersecurity case studies. Then learning details of an attack, visualizing the black hats, becoming a defender. Then, of course, we started with identifying running processes. So that's one of the first practical lab that we did on the channel, 3.03. Then we also looked at exploring processes, threats, handles, and Windows registry. Because one of the duties of the SOC analyst is to try to see what is happening behind the hood. Then we looked at PowerShell. We looked at task managers. Then we looked at working with text file in the CLI, in the Linux CLI. Then we looked at Linux servers and log files. Then we also looked at using Wireshark to examine UDP and TCP captures. And I think we also looked at examining HTTP and HTTP traffic on Wireshark. And today we're going to have, I think, 2 other labs attacking a MySQL databases. Now, a MySQL database is going to be, of course, it's a relational database. It can be an application. Any application can be using it. It can be a PHP application. It can be a Python application. It can be a Perl. It can be ESP. It can be whatever application, whatever language that is using the application. So databases are where these items are stored. Databases are where the username, the passwords, and all of that is being stored. So it's important for a SOC analyst to be able to understand for an attack that has happened, how do you do forensics? How do you able to capture, if you capture it by Wireshark, how are you able to do more analysis? So the focus of today's training is going to be The focus of today's training is going to be attacking a MySQL database, and also we'll do some kind of cryptography encryption. We'll learn about hashing things out. I think that should be over to Innocent. You can write down with the training.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this lab. So this is day 7, and we'll be looking at, understanding the attacks of SQL injection. Because as a cybersecurity analyst, you should know how to, detect a SQL injection attack once it occurs in a website. Let me say your infrastructure, the organization you work with has a web server, and then you have all these logs, and you have all these alerts set up for monitoring let me say for monitoring attacks. Okay, so you have all these alerts set up. So if you happen to be listening for connections in your, let me say, your Wireshark or your TCP dump, and then you get to capture an attack, so you should be able to replay it, retrace the step of the attacker and see how that vulnerability, how that that attack happened. Okay, so today though this lab is more of examining a Wireshark capture of a SQL injection attack, but I'm just going to show you what a real attack looks like. Okay, if I scroll down real quick, some of the things they will show here is from a real attack. Okay, but this lab is not about the attack really. It's about investigating. But let me just show you. Let me go to my way and show you the attack in real time. Okay. I'm doing this for those of us that have been with us throughout, so you get to see what a SQL injection looks like every time. So let me just minimize this a bit, and then move this out of the way. So now let me open up my other lab. So this is my Kali machine, and then let me show you what the attack looks like. Okay, give it a second. Sorry. Nope. Okay. If I can log into my caps lock is on. Sorry. Right. So now we are here. Let me just pull up my browser. Oh, it's already open. Beautiful. So now let me just show you this real quick before we now start investigating, because it's something similar. Okay. But let me just be the attacker in this case real quick. And as you can see here, I'm not attacking anybody in particular. This is my virtual machine. So this is my attacking machine, and I have my my lab set up as the victim. Okay, so give me a second. If you see here, this is my my victim machine here. This is my attacking machine, and this is my CyberOps. So after this, let me replay the SQL injection, how it all happened, and then we can now start examining the Wireshark capture. Okay. In case you don't know anything about Wireshark, you can check our previous tutorials to learn more about Wireshark. But for now, let me show you what the attack will be like. And then once you start investigating, you will understand it a lot better. Okay. So now this is a regular web application. And then let me say as a regular user, you can just be browsing. But this is typically what the hackers will do. Okay, they will use your web application like a regular user, and then they'll go about clicking stuff, moving about until they see an input box. Okay, so anytime they see any input mechanism where they can key in things or type in something, anything that just accepts input, that is where attackers will want to look for SQL injection. Okay, so now this is just saying user ID. So you just requesting for a random user ID, and if I put in 1 and I press submit, it gives me the admin. Okay, and then this kind of thing, an attacker will play around with it and will say 2, and then you get back another user. Okay, so this kind of thing, an attacker can say, oh, things be going on in the hacker's mind, and the hacker can say, what can I do, to make this thing vulnerable to SQL injection? Can I test this parameter? Can I test this input box for SQL injection? Okay, the other attacker might do is to input 1 and then put, a single quote to see, first of all, if they can break the application, to confirm if it is vulnerable to a SQL injection. And then, funny enough, this application in this one has been, designed to be vulnerable. Okay, so if I press submit now, just to see, whoa, we get this. Okay, so we get this SQL syntax error. Okay, ordinarily errors like this should not be displayed to a live machine, to a live hosted machine. Okay, you shouldn't be getting this kind of thing, because if an attacker sees the attacker will know that yes, this is actually responding to SQL inputs. Okay, and then the hacker or the attacker can now further start thinking of juicy payloads or juicy SQL commands to craft. Okay, so as the attacker can now do something like, okay, instead of 1, if I do 1 equals to 1, okay, to make sure it still accepts SQL statements, and I press enter, I still get my admin, even though I put 1 equals to 1. Ordinarily, you should just be accepting integers. You should just accepting numbers like 1, 2, and then you should not be accepting this equal to. So now we can confirm that this is very, very vulnerable to SQL injection, and then the attacker cannot keep, crafting more payloads. So let me show you a typical payload an attacker might craft. Give me a second. Okay, attacker might craft something like this. Since he already knows, he might craft something like this and say, oh, if you see here, I was playing with it a bit. I can say, okay, let me not search for, let me just keep adding more SQL statements, So for you to be able to attack a SQL database, you need to understand the SQL, the SQL language, okay? The structured query language, you need to understand it. It's just like you cannot be a driver without, first knowing how to, drive, basically. So you can't manipulate something you don't know about. So since you're attacking a database, you need to understand at the basic level what is SQL and what a SQL statement is. So this is where web development comes in. So that's why you should stick with us and follow up on our web classes to understand more about web vulnerabilities and web attacks. Okay, so now let me continue with my payload and my SQL injection. So now the attacker can now keep crafting more complicated payloads and do something like this. Union, select database. Okay, give me a second. My shift to allow me, and then user. Okay, so this is a long SQL statement. Okay, because I already know SQL, I know what this is doing to the database. Okay, so by default, let me pull up a text editor real quick. Let me say your typical SQL statement will be like this: select something, select a user from a database. Okay, where I'll put down filling those blanks now, where let me say an ID is equal to 1. So for example, what this is doing is saying I want to select a user ID, for example, okay, from a particular database where the ID is 1.
I want to select a user.
A user from this, okay, from this database, okay, or sorry, from this table, okay, from this table, okay, stick with me, from this table where the ID is 1. So the point is you need to have an idea of SQL statements to be able to perform SQL injection. So this is like an example what is going on in the back end, okay, and then the attacker is now crafting all this payload and be saying, okay, this is the one, and the attacker is now putting a single quote in the front, So single quote like this is going to break the application, okay, because let me say this, let me just try to fill in the complete command where ID is equals to 1, and then the attacker now, maybe the SQL statement is now, of course there won't be a comment, but let me say this is how the query is, and then the attacker now puts in this single quote to interrupt this entire process, okay, this entire flow. So this is going to break it because the input is not being validated. Okay, it's not being sanitized. Okay, so this is why as a programmer, you should learn to properly validate your user inputs. Okay, so this kind of attack now is very, very serious because this is getting things directly from the database. After I input all these commands finish, I will show you the kind of data that can be gotten from the database, because the database is where hackers will, malicious hackers will look their mouth and say, yes, they have gotten the, they've won the jackpot, for example, because that's where the data is. That's why organizations will pay millions for you to secure their data, right? So this is the database. This is the input box, and the attacker is crafting this kind of payload. Let me show you. And then if I let me submit it real quick and see what happens. Whoa, now we are getting a whole lot of random stuff. Okay, so ordinarily I put where 1 is equals to 1, and then I'm selecting the database and then the user. So now if you see here, this is the database and this is the user. Okay, so it is this command is actually being executed. Okay, in other words, this input box is not being validated at all. It's not being checked at all for malicious character. So this is very, very dangerous, right? This is very, very dangerous. And then now that we have gotten this database and this user, the hackers can now do more, perform more complicated SQL queries, to get usernames, to get passwords, those kind of stuff. So let me now go back to my what's it called again? To my CyberOps machine. Okay. And now let us now examine our packet in Wireshark real quick. Let me just open this. So CD, and then we enter our lab support files. If I do ls, okay, these are SQL lab. The only thing is that this pickup file has already been captured. Okay, so the traffic has been captured when the attack was taking place. So that's the reason why the cybersecurity analysts can now go back and start investigating what happened, how it happened, and stuff like that. So now let me open this in Wireshark again, and then SQL lab, and I press enter. So this is going to open in a moment, and then we'll have all the captures, okay, of all our SQL attacks. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to figure out because these are packets, which packets involves the SQL attacks. Initially, if you watch my yesterday's video, I was thinking it was actually a login form, like a username and password. But as we've seen now, it's just it's a normal GET request, but it's just like a search box in normal websites where you put in your search and then it reflects in your GET request. Don't worry, you understand all this lingo once you do the web class. Okay, you get to understand these lingos very, very well. Let me go down. This is the packet I'm looking for. Okay, so this is the GET request, and if I go back and show you, you see it was reflecting in the URL. So but I don't need to do that. So this is I can already see the ID here of the labs, okay, of the victim machine. So this is the ID, and then we can see the source and the destination. So this is the attacker's IP, and then this is the where the file is hosted. Okay, so if I right click and then I say follow HTTP stream, to see more about this attack, and then you can see this is in the URL. Okay, this presents 3D is a URL encoding character. It also means equal to. Okay, I can either use equal to. Let me show you real quick, real fast. If it's still on, if I say 1 equals to 1 and I press enter, you see this is reflecting the URL here. So this percent 3D is the same as equal to. So it's been URL encoded. Okay. So so this is what's happening here. And then the attacker was trying to figure out if it is vulnerable first of all. And then we can see this, and then it still vomited. It still gave back a response. The server gave back a response, of the admin, because number one user ID will give back the ID instruction and the rest like that. So let me even search and do 1 equals to 1 and find next. So you see here, it gave us the name admin, surname admin, okay? And then, the attacker can verify that, oh, it is accepting a port to. That means it is passing our inputs, okay? It is, the SQL engine is reading our inputs. So I can, still go back to my packet and, look for more attacks. So we just read the 13 file. Let's look for more. Okay, look at this other one where there's a get and then the ID. Okay, and then if I follow TCP stream again, sorry, HTTP stream, to see what this is all about, I can see this is more, the attack just keep getting interesting. Let me see. Okay, this, okay, one single quote, because that's the, give me a second, one single quote, and I press next. So see what it's doing. So now this is it in clear text. So the attacker is now doing one single quote or one. So these are just, all these commands, this SQL in command SQL injection, you're just trying to get the database, get the web application to behave in unexpected way. Okay, to just give out data that it's not supposed to give. But now this is logic. Okay, the attacker is now applying logic. Okay, so this for is now saying give me 1 or 0 equals to 0. So with this now, see, it's now giving everything. It's not giving you the entire user. Okay, so instead that it gives 1, which is the user ID of admin, or it gives the statements that will always be true, which is, of course, 0 will always be equal to 0 if you understand that logic. Okay, so it is now giving both the admin and then Pablo and then Bob and then Smith. Okay, so I did not show you that previous web application and I just started showing you this, you wouldn't have gotten, at least you have been confused now. But if you follow our web application class without even looking at that web, without even looking at that graphical, browser I just showed you now, you can still deduce that something is still going on here. So hackers will typically work with command line and then stuff like this. It's not because they are magicians, it's because they actually studied and then they practiced. So if you can see this 1 or 0 equals to 0, this statement will always be true. So it is now giving all the users in the in the database. So so you see Picasso here, you see Pablo, you see Smith. So it's just permitting everything. And then let me examine another packet to see what other injection the attacker did or the attacker performed. So this is 15. You've looked at 13, 16. So you need to take your time and investigate. Okay, let's go down and see more injection. Look at this packet. Let's see what it's all about. If I follow TCP stream again on HTTP stream, and then I'll see, okay, 1 single quote, I press enter. Okay, now the attacker is now going for the database, which I have showed you now. The attacker is now trying to get the name of database, the user of the database. Okay, you log the name of the user in database and stuff like that. So you see the root user, okay, and then you see the name of the database here. So the attacker is now going for more juicy stuff, and then with this you can tell that, oh, this is what the attacker is doing. Okay, got this IP and the rest. You can even see is this is a request header. Okay, this is HTTP request. You can see the user agent being used, the attacker's machine, Mozilla Firefox. You can see the IP here. You can see the the referrer. You can see stuff, basic stuff of the attacker. Okay. Let me see if I can get the last packet, and then we go to the next to the next lab. Okay. What else? What number is this? This is 19. Have we done this? You don't select. Okay, let me look at this one real quick. Let's see what this packet is all about. So follow HTTP stream again, and then one, okay. Okay, so you see, if you look here, the attacker just keeps, trying more queries, okay, more SQL queries. So the attacker is, just saying, okay, select, I want to be null, and then asking for version. That is the version of the the database. Okay, and then you are saying this 5 points and 7 points. So if you understand your SQL injection, if you understand your SQL queries, if you understand your web application, this will become a breeze. Okay, this will become a breeze. So that's why you need to learn your web to be able to understand web vulnerabilities. Okay, let me just skip to the last packet and see what was the last thing the attacker did before, maybe before dashing. So let's.
Okay, let me know. Do we have anybody that have any question? You can ask in the chats, in the live chat. If you have any questions, you can ask in the live chat. Let me know. Let me know if you are done with this particular lab. Okay, so somebody's asking a question. Can the attacker have access to passwords using SQL injection? Very, very correct. Yes. What's it called? The attacker can actually have access to password, right? The attacker can have access to password. If the site is a site that is built with HTTP, of course, the attacker is going to have access. Then another thing is that person is using code. One of the things you need to understand is that you need to use not just plain text protocol, but encrypted protocol. That's where HTTPS comes up. If you use HTTP, what is going to happen is that most of the messages are going to be very encrypted. Once they're encrypted, it's a little bit slightly difficult, and it's going to be a very tall order for the person to be able to now do some decryption. Okay, so let me do some guide for most of us that have issues with our lab. So you have about 47 labs in the Cisco CyberOps certification. I'll open a few of them and explain to you. Now, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's say a little bit larger icon. Just a second. Just a moment. So, okay, now let me share my screen. Now, you see, like I said, you have about 47 labs in the guide. So the very first lab is a top attacker shows how it is done. So the advantages of the lab is to help you understand hacking concepts, understand the responsibilities of a SOC analyst, what a kind of job that a SOC analyst is going to be doing. So the very first lab, which is in module 1 of the certification, is top hackers have shows how it is done. So if you double click and open the lab, so this is what you're going to see. So this is the instructor guide that guides you on the lab. So you have some objectives. So each lab has an objective and has what it is intended that you should be able to do. So there's a TEDx video that talks about top hacker shows how it is done. Pablo Hallman and TEDx Midwest. Then you also have resources required for this lab, so a PC and a mobile device with internet. So you see the instructions. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to locate the video. You're supposed to use your internet. And how am I going to do it? I just pick this title. I go to Google and I type top attacker shows how it's done. So this is the video. It's a 17 minutes video by TEDx in 2012. So if you play it, it explains that. So you're supposed to watch. You're supposed to watch that video.
New insights from their data, like
you're supposed to watch that video and now be able to answer the questions.
So this is a hotel room, kind of like the one I'm staying in. I get bored sometimes. Room like this has not a lot to offer for entertainment, but for a hacker, it gets a little interesting because that television is not like the television in your home. It's a node on a network, right? That means I can mess with it.
So what you're supposed to do is to go through that video, it's 17 minutes video. So you have to watch it, then choose one of the hacks discussed by Mr. Holman in the video and use your favorite search engine to conduct some additional research on that particular hack. Then of course, you now have some kind of questions. So the questions you have is like, what vulnerabilities was exploited? What is information, data, control that can be gained by the hacker exploiting this vulnerability? How is the vulnerability performed, right? So you have to answer the questions. Of course, in the mentorship group, you have to return this particular question back. Then, for most of us that have been asking how to set up their virtual machine, so that is lab 1.15. If you open this lab, so you have two things that you require to be able to configure your machine for the labs. So the minimum requirement is at least 8 gig of RAM. Then you need at least 40 gig space. So we really have 2 gig. So the more RAM you have, the faster it is for you to be able to run your labs. So the very first thing you need to do is to download the virtual box. For as many that are asking, okay, where do I get the virtual box? You can get the virtual box from here, or you just Google Oracle Virtual Box. Then you have to download the virtual machine. So we've already provided a link for the virtual machine for you guys. Then some people are asking, okay, how do I import? I've downloaded the virtual box. The instructions are very clear. So you go to the virtual box, you click on file and you import. So this is what the virtual box looks like. So I have the Oracle Virtual Box. I also have the VMware. So virtualization helps you to be able to run quite a lot of labs. So you should have the security onion, you should have the CyberOps machine, and you should also have the what's it called? You should have Kali Linux. If you already have Kali Linux, you're able to run most of these labs. Like you see for this virtual machine, for instance, I have the Black Hat Linux and I also have the Kali Linux 2023. Then for my Oracle VirtualBox, I don't have anything installed here, right? So if I want to add any machine here, all I need to do is to go to import, and I'm going to locate the file where I downloaded those files from. I tap on this icon, then I select that particular file and I open, and it's going to run smoothly and it's going to install the virtual machine. Now, if you have any error message, you can drop it on the group, or you can have questions, or you can Google up your error messages and get that fixed. So that's about the virtual machine. So if you have this kind of message, you might need to change your settings, because while on your virtual machine, you want to be able to browse, right? So if you're inside your virtual machine, you're not able to browse, you might set on the settings of the VirtualBox to bridge adapter. And one other issue people are going to have, or you might have, is that your system tells you that you cannot virtualize. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your BIOS and activate. I use a Lenovo, I think 14 something, how to access BIOS. So it's going to tell you, documentations are very key. It's going to tell you, okay, it is once the system is starting up, press F2 or function 2, depending on the type of keyboard you are using. And you're going to get to BIOS, then you activate virtualization. How do you activate virtualization? For a Lenovo, for instance, that I use, my BIOS is going to be something like this. Lenovo 14, my BIOS is going to be something like this, right? So all you just need to do is you toggle, you change, and you activate it. It must be enabled. Once virtualization is not enabled, you will not be able to run your virtual machine. Very, very important. Very, very important. So the virtualization is not turned on, you won't be able to virtualize. Now, because this virtual machine is a custom-built virtual machine for learners, right? So the password is already written there for you in the lab document. So for every lab that you are given, for every lab that you are assigned, it's properly documented, right? Like the username is analyst CyberOps. There is no other username and password. You don't attempt something, you don't try something else. This is always the username and password. Then another thing you can do is try to see if you can access the idly, the Skitty, and the Wireshark, and also the what's it called, the terminal emulator. You could type IP address to see if you can see your IP address and other details. If you want to shut down the virtual machine, the steps are there. Go to File, choose Close, save the machine state. What's the difference between saving the machine state and just, what's the difference between all of these three? So save the machine state. If you were doing something before, or if you have some configurations, it's going to all save those configurations. Then you have send the shutdown signal. This way, you will just completely shut down. Then, of course, for this, you are going to power off the machine. With the virtual machine, you're able to test new applications, and we explained, I think on the channel, I have a comprehensive video on virtualization. Okay, so for this pending lab we have, that is lab, what was it called? The second? A moment, let me check the lab number. Just a moment. Okay, attacking so lab 17.26. I might be wondering what is the 17.26 or what is the number. So the numbers is the chapters. So you have 28 modules. Each modules have their labs. Like in chapter 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 labs. Chapter 2 does not have labs. Chapter 3, yes, chapter 2 has just one lab, that is becoming a defender 2. Chapter 3 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 labs. Then of course, chapter 4 has 1, 2, 3, that's the Linux, 5, 6. So what we did in the last 7 days was to try to run through about 18 labs. And we're going to record, let's say, additional 1 or 2 labs. And of course, if you have questions with respect to any of the labs that we have considered, you can ask between now and Saturday. Then, of course, on Sunday, rather, we're going to be running the remote job insights for cybersecurity analysts and for persons into tech. So I think that will be all for today. We just have one more pending lab, so that will be recorded and that will be dropped on the group so that you can answer them. Okay, please, who have any questions? If you have any questions, you can indicate. I'm going to answer before we go to the training group for a review. Okay, somebody is asking, can the attacker have access to passwords using SQL injection? The attacker is not going to have access to password using SQL injection. What the attacker is going to find out during SQL injection is that he's going to reveal the build-up, the makeup of the application. So things like table names can be exposed, right? The only way that an attacker can find passwords using SQL injection is that if the tables save username and passwords in plain text. So that is the only way. For instance, in my work using a tool called SQL injection. So SQL injection is a tool that you can use for, SQL map. This is the tool. Just a moment. SQL map. It's a very nice tool. It's a very powerful tool. So that's why we are trying to run the web programming foundation course for cybersecurity analysts. Because if you're able to understand databases, if you're able to understand how applications are built, then when you are told to do vulnerability assessment, then it's very, very much easier for you to be able to perform some of these tasks. And web programming, very, very critical, very, very important. Networking, very, very critical, very, very important. So once you have these skills, it helps you to be a better, security analyst. So SQL is a tool, SQL map is a tool, so it can help for automatic SQL injection and database takeover. Now, it's an automated tool. So what Mr. Nelson was trying out just 15 minutes ago was a manual attack, right? Another automated tool you can run to be able to reveal maybe some messages of some vulnerability is what we call the ZAP, right? OWASP ZAP. Let me see if I have it installed on this system. OWASP ZAP. Okay, sorry, ZAP. Okay, let me just use this to round up the labs. That is the ZAP 2.12.0. So let me run this lab and you try to see some things. So SQL map can be used to run SQL injection. It's a very straightforward tool. You should have Python 2.7 running on your system. That's the prerequisite. Then it has its own flags, and you can start using it. I think maybe for the mentorship group, we can add it to one of the tools and tell you how to use SQL map. Okay, let me go over to OWASP. That is still loading. Let's allow it to run through. They were going to pick up one or two websites I was going to try to use WhatsApp to do some vulnerability. For example, for a web application, understanding web development, having web skills play a critical role. So let us pick one or two vulnerable sites and let's try to run a scan. Okay, before that, let's answer some questions. Somebody says, it's NetAccount training the same as Cisco certification, CCNA? Okay, now let me explain. So Cisco owns NetAccount. So any accredited training organization accredited by Cisco, the way you can certify, the way you can be mentored, the way you can be trained to write any of the Cisco certifications is through a network academy. So what a network academy does is to provide you access to the Cisco platform, so you train, you learn, you certify, and you get the badge, right? So Cisco have quite a lot of certifications. So they have Cisco CyberOps, you have CCNA, that is, it has 3 levels. That is Introduction to Networking, that is ITN. Then you have Routing, Switching, Wireless Essentials. Then you also have Enterprise Networking, Security, and Automation. So that is the final CCNA. Then you also have the CCNP, then you have the CCIE. All of these are Cisco certifications, and the training arm of Cisco is what you call the NetAccount. So the NetAccount has some free courses and have some paid courses. Cisco CyberOps that we're considering now is a paid course. You cannot take Cisco CyberOps on your own. You can only take it through an academy. Somebody else is asking, is it possible for the attacker to hide his information in such a way that the Wireshark will be unable to reveal their information? So it's only when the protocols are encrypted, that's when, and not that Wireshark cannot capture it. Wireshark is going to capture it, but it's not going to be any longer in plain text. Okay, let's pick a website like nmap.org. So it's a website. Let's do some vulnerability assessment using nmap. But let's use scanme.nmap. But let me pick nmap as it is and try it. So I want to run a vulnerability assessment. I will say I want to do a automated scan. I'll put the URL here. I'm trying to do a vulnerability assessment. Then I'll click on attack. So I have to include the HTTPS, right? And an attack. So this is an example of how you can do an automated vulnerability assessment for a website using a tool called OAbza, right? So I'm going to hold on for a moment, and we're going to see the different alerts that we're going to get, right? You see the alerts tabs are updating. If you look closely, so some alerts are high, so it's in order. Some alerts are high, some are very low, some are for information purposes. So the idea is that if you build if you build an application, a SOC analyst, a vulnerability assessment specialist, or an analyst can actually test the application, reveal those vulnerabilities, and now pass it on to the web developers to like fix all of those issues. Then there are some issues that are going to find out from vulnerability assessment that is very light, like the ones you are seeing in green. They just say information disclosure. Then you have some that are a little bit yellow, then a little bit dark yellow, then you now have the one that is red. So when you see anything that is red, it calls for great concern. So of course, what you're going to be doing now is to be looking at the each of the vulnerabilities. Are you seeing the issue, the evidence, the common vulnerability exploit ID, right? So the issues associated with the description of that particular vulnerability, then other issues. So a vulnerability assessment analyst or a SOC analyst can do most of this investigation and pass that on to the web developers. I think this is just a brief overview of the tool called OAbsorb. So I'll answer one or two questions. I'm going to call it a day. Somebody says, can anyone assist me to understand Winbox? Yes, we offer Winbox training. Winbox is a tool by, what's it called again? What's the name of the hardware? Microtik. So Microtik is the tool. Winbox is the software that you can use to manage Microtik. So Microtik, you could use that to do access control. You can use that to typically access control to manage, to have like a captive portal for your wireless application. You can ask further questions and guidance on the training group, and that will be provided for you. Any further questions before we call it a day? Okay, the last one or two labs, we're going to record that and drop that in the training group. Okay, thank you very much. See you in the mentorship group.